Hey everyone, I'm Mike from Regala Photography, where we talk about everything photography. Today, we are going to delve into the art of contrast control in Lightroom Classic. And we're going to do this by using luminosity and color range masks. Okay. If you are ready to take your photo editing to the next level, this is going to do it for you. So let's get going. Okay, here we are in Lightroom Classic. I have a couple photos all set to go. And we are going to start off with luminosity masks. All right, we got a few ways we can bring up the luminosity masks. The obvious way would be to come on over here to the mask button and click the mask button and then click on range. And then you got a choice, color range, luminance range, and then they have a depth range for if you're going to do blur, like for bokeh and stuff like that. But we're going to do luminosity range. But there's another way that you can do this as well. If you hit Shift and Q, so Shift Q, and it'll bring up your mask, okay? And it's right here. So now, here's what you have over here. You have a couple different things you can do. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to use this eyedropper tool. It's automatically here, and you're going to choose the range that you want to work with. Now, we're going to start off with the mid-range, okay? So you want to find something that's not too bright and not too dark. So let's come on over into here maybe. Let's try this. Okay. And that's not too bad, but it's a little bit more than what I want. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this down just to kind of control a little bit less right there. And you can also feather a little bit more on how much. So if you want more of the darks in there, you can do that. Or if you want to take away some of the darks, and you can do that as well. All right. And, well, first things first, the only settings that I adjusted on here were, I did a little bit of exposure. I didn't touch any of the contrast, the whites, the darks, the blacks, shadows, anything. I didn't touch any of that. And I also did a little bit of sharpening. But other than that, I did nothing to this photo whatsoever. Okay. So now we're going to come down here. It's like, okay, what do we want to do with the midtones? We want to probably brighten them up just a little bit. So let's hit that a little bit. We don't want to go too crazy. Now, if we want to do just contrast, you can just hit the contrast slider and it'll make them darker, or you can make them brighter. Okay. But the contrast slider is a little limited, and you are allowing Lightroom to control how much to adjust the highs or the lights and the darks. But you want to have control. So to show more control, you want to use these four sliders down here: highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. Okay. So for the highlights, let's say we want to bring up the midtones a little bit. So we're going to brighten them up a little bit. Let's brighten up the shadows a little bit. Okay. The whites, we want to brighten, not too much so with the whites. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the shadows down a little bit. And then we're going to take the blacks and bring them down. And so if you come up here and you hit your mask, there's before and there's after. It's a very fine adjustment, but much, much more control. If you were to just do, see, look at your contrast. It's really, really going crazy there. And we don't want that. Okay. So before and after. Okay. And that's just with the midtones. So now what we want to do is we want to adjust, let's just say we want to adjust the darks, the blacks and the shadows. Okay. So what we're going to do is hit Shift and Q. It'll open up a new luminosity masks. And what you can do over here too is actually pretty cool. You can come in here and you can rename, and we're just going to call this one midtones. Okay. We'll do that. And then we'll come on over here and hit Shift Q again. So Shift Q. Make sure you don't hit Command Q, because otherwise you're going to quit your app. So that'll mess you up. I just did that a minute ago. All right. So now you got your new mask. Well, you know what? We're going to do a little bit of adjustments here. So let's come into the shadows first. We're going to brighten them up a little bit. Oh, actually, no, we got to do, my bad. We got to detect what range we want. So we're going to come on over here to this range, and we're going to do that right there. And now this one, I really don't need to change this right here, because this pretty much got what I wanted. Okay. It's my darks that I wanted to adjust. So instead of adjusting exposure, I'm just going to come on over here and I'm going to adjust the shadows. And again, you can see that brighten it up a little bit. And it's much more subtle than if I were to go and use my exposure slider. So I could do the shadows. I could do the whites. Okay. And then I can make the blacks a little bit darker if I want to. And then also too, if I want to, I can add a little bit more saturation if I wanted to. Highlights, I think I'm going to increase the highlights a little bit, because I want to really, really increase that contrast in that tree. I'm going to increase my shadows a little bit more. Okay. And that's pretty, actually maybe a little bit of warmth, because it was a fall day. So a little bit more warmth on there. Okay. Now, if you really want to adjust your contrast with this mask, you can come on down actually, and you can hit your clarity. Okay. And your texture if you want to. Since it's a foliage, I want to have more texture in there as well. So you do that with contrast. So there you go with the darks. All right. Now I could do one more. So if we look over here at our masks right here, so I'm going to hit rename. I want to rename that one. So we're going to call that one darks. So we got the darks done. Okay. Now we're going to do one more. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here to the plus sign. We're going to try a little differently now. And we're going to come down to luminosity range. Now I got my eyedropper. So now I'm going to pick my bright. So we're going to come on over here. Now these are really blown out, so I don't think we're going to get too much. But what I want to do is I want to feather this out. Or actually, I want to feather it in more. Yeah, there we go. So I want to feather it in more a little bit. Okay. And actually what I want to really do is, let me see. Oh, let's go right there. And we're going to, we're going to feather that out a little bit here. There we go. Nope, not too much. There we go. Okay. And now here's what we want to do here. I want to bring my highlights down a little bit, but I want to bring the whites up. And I'm actually going to bring them up all the way. See, in this particular photo, I did do the sky, and unfortunately, it's also going to do all this over here. Now, what I could do actually is take this slider and bring it all the way down and show my map. Okay. There's my luminosity. So now I am only touching the real bright highlights. Okay. So now I can actually bring my whites down over here, and it'll make my sky dark. And obviously my sky is completely blown out. So there's really not much I can do with that. Blacks, I could bring the blacks down, or I could bring them up a little bit. Highlights, I'm going to bring them up. Okay. In this particular photo, what I would probably do is I would actually do a separate sky mask and then adjust the sky. But I really can't do much here anyway. So anyway, I'm going to add a little bit more teal. I'm getting a little more saturation in that too. But again, you can come on up over here to the masks, and you can hit before and after. And these are just all my masks right here. And again, I would rename that to the highlights. Okay. So there is luminosity masks. All right. Here we have a photo of some flowers, and they're like buds, whatever. And we're just going to do a color mask. Okay. We're going to do color masks. So let me come on over here to the basics. And again, all I have adjusted here that I did was I did a little bit of texture and clarity, and I did a little bit of vibrance, and then I also did the details. Okay, that's it. I didn't even do any exposure on this whatsoever. All right. So we're going to do color range, but so what we want to do is we want to bring up a color range mask. So I can hit Shift and J. Now that's going to bring up a new color range mask. All right. Now again, I have my eyedropper here, and let's just say I want to pick this color right there. All right. So now it's chosen. You can see right here the color range that it picked right here. And this one gives you a little less control. I can't really move that around a little bit. But what I can do is I can adjust the contrast of just that color. So let's just say I want to bring the highlights down a little bit. Do I want to bring my shadow? Yep, I want to bring my shadows down a little bit. Whites, let me see. We're going to bring them actually up a little bit. And then the blacks, I want to bring them down. Okay. And then obviously also I can add the teal. I could add some saturation. And you can see just with that one mask, before and after. I mean, that's just one mask. Barely did any global edits at all. And one mask did just that right there. Okay. So let's just say I want to pick another color. Come on over here and I'll do a color range mask again. But now I want to do the greens. So we're going to do the greens over here. Okay. So we got the greens. We want to take care of those. So let me see. I think I want to bring the highlights down on the greens. Yeah, because I want to subdue the greens a little bit more. I want to bring the shadows down a little bit. Whites, let me see. We're going to bring them up a little bit. Okay. And then the blacks, we're going to kind of go down just a little bit. And then again, come on over here to the tint slider. Add a little bit more green to it whatsoever, or a little bit. And then we can do some saturation. And if I want to, I could even bring the exposure down. And actually, instead of saturating it, I'm going to desaturate it a little bit. Okay. Kind of subdue it a little bit. And again, just with that mask alone, before and after. Before and after. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my shadows back up again. Bring my highlights down. Bring the whites down a little bit. And then the shadows are going to come up a little bit just to make that a little bit better. Okay. And again, that's just before and after, and that's two colors. Here's both masks together, before and after. Before and after. And again, you can go in and tweak it using your global settings if you want. You can use different kinds of masks. You can do, in this particular photo, you could probably do a subject mask. Maybe just choose a certain one of the flowers if you want to. I mean, your choices are limitless, but I love that Lightroom gives you this control over your contrast instead of just you and doing the contrast slider, because you can see how it's just too generic when you use the contrast slider, which is I hardly ever use the contrast slider. I've always used more of the shadows, the highlights, and the blacks and the whites to adjust my contrast because it's just more control. Okay. All right. So there's your color contrast slider. All right. Next, we are going to combine the two. I just want to level this off a little bit. Oh, not too much. Right about there. Okay. So again, I only did, what I'm doing here, a little bit of clarity, a little bit of texture. And then you can see here, I did my sharpening. Okay. And that's it to this photo. All right. So this one, what we're going to do is we are going to do a combination of a luminance range mask, and then we're going to do a color range mask. All right. So, and again, I can't stress this enough. Make sure you hit Shift and Q, not Command Q. Command Q will shut down Lightroom. Okay. It'll save your changes, obviously, but again, it'll mess you right up. Okay. So Shift and Q will bring up the mask. Now let's see what we want to do first. I want to bring up my darks. So let's come on over here to this house, this boathouse. We'll click that. And it's a pretty good. Let me see if I want to go more. Yeah, there we go. Because I could do the darks separately if I want to. So we're going to kind of come on over here more to the lights on this one right here. Okay. And also too, it was a blue hour, if you will, prior to sunrise. So actually, sun was just coming up like right there. So there's my color range, or my luminosity range. So what do I want to do? I want to bring up my shadows. We're going to bring them up a little bit. Okay. Highlights. Let's see. We want to bring, oh, no, we don't want to do that. So we want to bring the highlights down in this particular case. Whites. Do we want to bring them up or down? Oops, I'm not doing anything. We want to bring them up just a little bit. Okay. And then the blacks, we could bring them down, or we could bring them up. We'll bring them down. Okay. Now I'm also going to warm it up a little bit because, again, it was a sunrise. And I'm going to increase my saturation right there. Okay. Now, here's a little trick you can do too if you wanted to. Right here, you got the add and subtract tool right here. So let's just say I really don't want to tweak the sky just yet. I can come on over here and I can click subtract and I'll click sky. So now Lightroom's going to do its thing. And we have a sky mask now right here. So now the sky is not being adjusted. So now that's going to allow me to kind of bring a little bit more control on these other, or I should say on the land part, I should say the land part. Okay. Because I can always add a sky mask later, or I can go and do another luminosity mask within the sky if I want to. Okay. So there's that one right there. Now I'm going to do Shift Q, do another one. Okay. And again, don't forget to rename your masks. Always get in the habit of doing that. I'm going to click the real darks. Okay. So that's that right there. And let me see. Do I want to, yeah, I want to fade that out a little bit. So I just want to bring a little bit of light into there. So I'm going to open up the shadows just a little, again, just a little bit. Don't need much. Whites. Do I want to, oops, see if I do blacks, it'll look too much. And again, because that was almost pure black right there, you can't do too much in there. All right. And I'm not going to add any color or anything like that at all. All right. And let's see if I want to do the highlights. Okay. So I'm going to come here, do a luminance mask or luminous range mask. And now I want to do the highlights. So now we're going to go, let's go right in here. Okay. And again, this was only going to adjust the sky right now. So now I can come on in. I can bring my highlights down a little bit. I can bring my shadows up a little bit. Bring the whites up. Oh, let's see, just a little bit there. Blacks, I want to bring them down. I can add a little bit more warmth. A little bit more warmth. Not too much, though. You don't want to go crazy with this stuff. Again, a little goes a long way when you're using these masks. Okay, and a little bit of saturation. And, you know, right there, oh, my little trick for the sky. Okay, bring your clarity up a little bit to kind of increase contrast even more, but bring your texture down to soften that contrast. You don't have any sharp edges between the dark areas and the light areas right there. Okay, so got my got the luminance set pretty good. So now what we want to do is we want to go for your color range. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do Shift and J. And we have a new mask. And now this is going to be a color range. So let's just see. We want to do these oranges right here. So we're going to do that one. Boom. Here we go. So now you can see I have my overlay on this. So I'm going to turn the overlay off, not to confuse anybody there. Let me see. Does it need any highlights, or do we want to darken them a little bit? We want to darken the highlights just a tad. Shadows, let's see, do we want to bring them up or down? Let's bring them up a little. Whites, do we want to bring them up? We'll bring them up a little bit. And then the blacks, we'll bring them down. Okay. And again, you want to add a little bit of warmth. Now, again, not too much, just a tiny bit. Or you can just add a little bit of saturation or desaturate it, whatever you want. Okay. And now I want to do something with these blues. I want to make these blues stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to hit Shift and J for another mask. And we're going to click on the blues right here. So now we have a blue color range mask. Okay. And I'm going to, before I do anything, I'm going to kind of add a little bit of blue right there. And you can see just doing that right there, that even adds contrast. Okay. But I want to bring the highlights down on those blues a little bit. Shadows, I want to bring them up. Yeah, I want to bring them up just a tad. Whites, so yeah, that looks good right here because it's brightening up right over in here. Blacks, what do we want to do with the blacks? Okay, we want to, that's not too bad. Actually, that looks pretty good like that because it darkened over here where there's no sunlight, okay? But then it kept all this over here brighter, okay? And again, I could tweak all this with other masks and global adjustments, etc. So if I feel these are too blown out, I can fix that no problem. Okay, no problem. Matter of fact, I can fix it with another luminosity mask as well. Okay, so let me see. Let's increase the saturation in that one right there. And you know what? These highlights are going to bother me a little bit. So we're going to do Shift and Q to do another one. And then we're going to click those highlights right there. And just bring the highlights down just a little, just a little. The whites, we need to bring them down or out. We want to bring them down. Okay. And then the blacks. And then this one, you could probably even do the exposure just a little bit. Okay. And there you go. Okay. Again, you got before these, you take these masks here. So you go, here's before and there's after. And again, that's just using localized masks. Pretty much only two masks, luminosity masks and the color range mask. I should say luminance range masks. That's what they're called. Okay. And then color range mask. So again, we got the before and after. Huge difference. Huge difference. There you go. You have your luminance range mask. Say that 10 times fast. Or color range mask. Well, there you have it. Mastering contrast control with luminosity and color range masks. If you have any questions at all, or you want more tutorials like this, please leave them in the comments below. If you found my video useful, please hit that subscribe button and click that like button. It really, really does help my channel. Ring that bell if you want to be notified when my next video is posted. Until next time, take care, everyone.